My name is Phil Jones. I'm an ex-Scientologist. I was in Scientology for almost 40 years. I've been out for over 10 years. And I've been somewhat of an activist over the last 10 years in trying to expose Scientology. And I wanted to cover today one of the extreme things that can happen in a cult when you get to fanatics. As you can get in any cult, someone who takes everything quite literally. Just to give a little bit of sort of some basic stuff on how things work, to kind of cover the background for this story. When you're on staff in an organization, Scientology organization, or in the Sea organization, you live and die by statistics. And what that means is that everything you do, whether it's getting people to pay money, and that's your statistic, is how much money you get people to pay your registrar. If you're a course supervisor, your main statistic is paid completions. That means somebody paid for a course and took the course and completed it, and that's your statistic. In Scientology, they run their statistics week to week. So they have a very finite week ending, and an unusual thing that they have is Thursday at 2 p.m. So they run their week from Thursday 2 p.m. to Thursday 2 p.m. And what can happen is that when you get close to the end of the week, there's a big push for completions from whatever, like whether it's a registrar getting more money through the door from prospects, or a course supervisor trying to get people to complete their courses. And it can get pretty intense. If you're even remotely close to finishing a course, the supervisor will push you to finish it before Thursday at 2. And often, I don't know if it still happens, but when I was on course, if we were close to finishing a course, we might be asked to stay late on a Wednesday night in order to finish before Thursday at 2. And when the supervisor or any staff member turns in their statistics, one of the reasons it's so intense is that if their statistics are down week to week, or just even on a 1 week basis, they get assigned what's called lower conditions, which is, it's like punishment to a degree. They'll get lower conditions, and depending on how far their statistic drops would depend on how far down the conditions they go and what they have to do to get back up them. Like they might have to do some manual labor after their post, after their job time. So there's a real scramble for for staff members to get their statistics up. And for a course supervisor, so I'm going to read, before I get into the actual story, before every single course that you do, there's a couple of policies that are like you get a course pack in the beginning. You got a check sheet which lists out all the policies and things that you're studying. Any tapes are listed on there. And when you get your course pack, in the very beginning, every single course I've ever done there's a policy called Keeping Scientology Working. And it's pretty intense. And it lays out really the seriousness of how Scientologists consider the game of Scientology. I'm going to read a few quotes from it. It's a pretty long policy, but I've just got 3 short little quotes here. So first one is, when somebody enrolls, consider he or she has joined up for the duration of the universe. Never permit an open-minded approach. If they enrolled, they're aboard. And if they're aboard, they're here on the same terms as the rest of us, win or die in the attempt. Never let them be half-minded about being Scientologists. The proper instruction attitude, this is for a course supervisor, you're here, this is what a course supervisor is supposed to think. You're here, or to tell their students rather, you're here so that you're a Scientologist. Now we're going to make you into an expert auditor no matter what happens. We'd rather have you dead than incapable. And it actually says that in the policy. We'd rather have you dead than incapable. So one day I was on course, and it was Wednesday, and I was slotted to finish by Thursday at 2, but it was a really tough target to meet. And I just thought, there's no way I'm going to finish this course by Thursday at 2, even if I stayed late. But the supervisor insisted, strongly insisted. So anyway, everyone else had gone home. I was sitting there studying my materials. The supervisor was sitting at his desk, and time went on. And after 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, I realized I'm not understanding. How you read a paragraph, you're so tired to read a paragraph. Did I even just read that? I don't know. I don't remember anything. Go back and reread it. And just mind is blank. Can't sort of contain any of the information. I looked up, and the supervisor is asleep at his desk, head down on the desk, packing away the Z's, fast asleep. So I guess about 2:30 rolls around, and I thought, this is it. I'm not getting this information anyway. I might as well just go home. So I packed up my stuff and I went home. So I went home and went straight to bed. I was just exhausted. It was all, well after 2:30 in the morning, and I fell asleep right away. Bam, just head hit the pillow. I was out. And then probably 30 minutes later, I think it was maybe 3:30, somewhere in there, 3 a.m. And I was just startled out of a deep, deep sleep. And I kind of rolled over, and there's the supervisor standing over the bed, and he picked up the lamp, the bedside lamp, was holding it over his head and screaming at the top of his lungs. And I've heard this expression about spittle coming out of people's mouths when they're just raving and lunatics. And he was raving, you're coming back in, and you're going to come back in, and you're going to finish this course. We'd rather have you dead than incapable. And I'm looking up at this guy, and I'm seeing this madman holding a lamp over my head, screaming, we'd rather have you dead than incapable. And I looked up at him, and now it sounds like this stretched out, but it was a split instant. I was thinking, should I punch him? Maybe I could get away with that. But having rolled over, I was kind of tangled in the sheets. I thought, there's no way. If I try to punch him before that lamp comes down on my head. So I just said, okay, I'll go in. So anyway, untangled myself, got dressed, and walked in. He walked me in. He didn't just wait for me to come back in. And I stayed, finished the course, didn't really get it. And then when you finish a course, you have to write a success story. If you don't write a success story, you kind of have to go back to the beginning. And there's no way I wanted to do that. It'd been a nightmare, already, and I did not want to do it anymore. Now, an examiner is not someone who gives you a test on the materials where they'll ask you questions or give you a written test. An examiner is someone who's sitting behind an e-meter, and you sit down and you pick up the cans, and they'll basically just ask you a question, and the question would be something like, would you like others to have the same gains as you have, meaning from what you learned on the course? And not wanting to have to redo the course, I said, yes, I do. And the examiner said, your needle's floating. How it floated, I don't know, because obviously the meter doesn't work, because if my needle floated, and I was so jacked up by then from the whole thing. Anyway, I skedaddled out of there. And the thing is, you could ask the question, why didn't I leave Scientology at that point? And here's my analogy. You get a guy climbing Mount Everest, and he's part of the way up there, and he sees that he's going for the summit, and his toes are frozen. He's got frostbite. His toes are black and ready to fall off. Why doesn't he get off the mountain? Why doesn't he leave? He's got his eye on the summit. And it's a similar thing in Scientology. First of all, you got the conditioning. So the crazy becomes normal, and the extreme becomes tolerable, because you've got your eye on the summit, on the target, on the goal of either clear or OT or whatever. And that's kind of why one reason people stay in so long. They keep their eye on the goal and the summit. and whether they have frostbite or toes falling off, they're not getting off that mountain, and they're not jumping off that bridge. Anyway, I know that other cults are going to have fanatics, but some Scientologists along the road that I've experienced have taken it so literally, and they have, like something like that, where we'd rather have you dead than incapable, that's written in there. There are people who will take that literally, and this guy, I believe he did. I mean, he was crazy. I don't even know how he got in the house, to be honest with you. I don't know whether he broke, I can't remember whether he broke the door or how he got in. I'm pretty sure I locked it. I'm pretty good at that. So, but anyway, there is my experience with being threatened by a fanatical Scientologist at 3 in the morning with Hubbard's words of, we'd rather have you dead than capable. Anyway, thanks for watching.